Do you want to convert 80% of your marketing proposals and spend less than 15 minutes creating the proposal? Well, in this episode, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that and walk you through our 7-step process that allowed us to close 80%. Now, if you're new to this show is all about giving you strategies and tactics to grow your agency much faster. If you're not yet subscribed, subscribe. Hit that little bell button so you never miss out on a new episode. Now, before we get into creating the proposal, we want to make sure we're talking to the right prospect. So if you haven't gone through NBAT and watched that episode, go to jasonswank.com/NBAT and it will walk you through how do you figure out the need, their budget, authority, and timing to make sure you're chatting with the right prospect. The first step in closing 80% and creating that proposal is creating a master template. Look, I remember we would create all kinds of proposals, and when we would run across something similar, we'd be like, hey, Jim, didn't we actually do this proposal already, or parts of it, and where was that? And then we'd have to go search that down and go find that. And it just took a lot of time kind of Frankensteining the proposal process together, which probably sounds familiar, right? Well, you really have to create a master template, and this will allow you to create a proposal very quickly. Look, we created this long proposal template, and if you want to get our proposal template, just go to jasonswank.com/proposal template. You can go download it and get that and see what we were using. But what we did was we literally listed everything out, and then every time we would have to create a proposal, we do like a find and replace on all the areas where it had their name or our team members, and then we would eliminate all the stuff that they did not need, that wasn't relevant to them. So if they didn't need SEO or pay-per-click and they just needed web design and social media management, right, we would just leave those in and take everything else out, just so it didn't confuse them. Step number 2 is the executive summary. Now, most people get the executive summary wrong, where they actually summarize what's in the proposal. Where, for instance, you should be actually summarizing what they said and what they need and start going over the general overview of the plan. That is what's going to get them engaged and to get them to read the proposal even further. And what I also do in the executive summary is go over NLP, neurolinguistic programming, where I'll state 2 obvious facts that I know they know is true. So then they'll start being like, yeah, he's right. I understand that. So for example, I would say, hey, a website's the central hub of all your marketing. And if you get the website wrong, it could actually hurt your sales and lose to your competition. So I stated 2 obvious facts that they know is true. So then all the other things I go over, they're gonna be like, yeah. Step number 3 is listing out the services of the solution that you're offering and put these in categories. Now, this is not to menu item all the services that you're actually doing. This is basically just walking them through the plan for the solution that you presented to them and really getting detailed and letting them know what all goes into everything so they can understand it. So they understand the actual process of what you're doing for the pay-per-click strategy, or understanding the process of how you're going to build the website to convert all those prospects and then to transfer that to their CRM, to their salespeople. This is where the most detail of the proposal actually comes in. But a lot of times, going back to the master template, you've done this before. So a lot of times you don't have to do much here, but you just have to make sure you're able to walk them through the plan and make it look custom to them. Now, it's also important to not list pricing in this area, because they could have sticker shock when they actually get to this one section, but they haven't really looked at it as a whole solution. They're just looking at that one particular service, and then they see a price. So don't have pricing here. I'll get to that in a moment. Now, it's also important in this area to list out the services that you're not going to be doing. This could actually be used for upselling them later on, but will also protect you from scope creep when you actually engage with them. So for example, if you're designing a 20-page website, make sure you put down 20 pages. I've actually fallen fallen into this trap before where I thought it was 20 pages and I got into it and it was like 1,000 pages in the back end. I was like, oh, never again. I don't want you falling for that. Now, before you move on to the next step, you need to make sure that they understand everything that you've gone through. So before I get to the project summary, I'm saying, is there anything that's unclear, or is there anything in here that you need clarification on before we move on? All right, step number 4 is the project summary. And this is where we actually list out the pricing for the solutions and services that we're doing. And I would break it up into kind of 2 categories here. One is the one-time setup fee, and another is kind of the residual or the monthly, just so they could kind of get a snapshot of, all right, what is everything going to look like? All right, number 5 is the about section. Now, most agencies and most people actually put the about section in kind of position 2 in the proposal, right? They have the cover letter, and then they automatically go into who they are and their agency and how great they are and their awards and their methodology. Well, that's actually wrong. No one cares about what you do, not yet. Not until you actually explain to them that you understand their problem and you have a solution in order to transform them or help them overcome something. And once we get to step number 5, where we're talking about us, now this is where we can actually get into, our team, like who's going to be working with them, who's going to be their account manager, their project manager, who's going to be the creative director or the social media marketing manager or the pay-per-click manager, who is going to be doing this. And this is where you can briefly just tell about the background of the agency, because you've reserved the right to do that. You've got them down past the solutions and they're a little bit interesting. Be like, all right, do you really get me? Do you understand? And this is where you can add a little bit of authority into the proposal. All right, step number 6 is including the contract with the proposal. Now, if you're working with the mega brands, obviously they're going to have their master service level agreements, their MSAs, that they're going to have you fill out, and they're never going to look at your contracts, okay? So I understand that with the mega dies. But for most people, they're going to be going off your contract. And here's a helpful hint. If you understand that they have a legal department ahead of time, just send them just the contract, not the whole proposal. Just say, hey, since we're getting closer to the proposal stage, let us send you our contract to have your legal team review. It's going to do a couple things. It's going to speed up the sales process, but it's also going to see if they're serious. If they send it to their legal department and you start going back and forth and they're redlining your contract, they know you're serious about working with you and you'll actually win the deal. And step number 7 is probably one of the most important. And this is where it took me years to figure this out, and I still see tons of agencies and businesses actually doing this wrong. Now, if we've ever sent a proposal to a prospect and they've gone silent after you send it to them, it's pretty frustrating. So the 7th step is not to send the proposal. You're going to set up the meeting to review the proposal. So you're going to have a lot of prospects say, hey, just send me the proposal. And you have to stand your ground and say, that's not in our process. If you want to work with us, we want to meet with you, go over and ask you the right questions, and then have the right in order to walk you through the proposal so we can make sure you're comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges. And if that doesn't work for you, I certainly understand we may not be the best agency for you. And if they don't go with your process now, don't you think they're going to be a pain in the butt to work with later on? Yes, they are. If you go back and you've been doing this for a while, you can tell, you're like, man, I know that prospect was going to be a pain in the butt and turn into a bad client, right? I always say there's no such thing as a bad agency client, only a bad prospect or a bad process. And this was a bad prospect. And this is an easy way to eliminate that, because if you can walk them through the proposal, you can control how they're viewing it and walking through it. Now, you don't have to be in person. You can use Zoom and GoToMeeting or whatever you want, whatever technology's out there now as you're watching this episode, but you have to walk them through it so you can answer questions. You can see where they're getting stumbled upon. Remember, when we actually start walking them through the solution, you don't move on to the project summary or the next step until you say, hey, do you understand everything? Is there anything that's a little bit unclear? And that's why you don't send the proposal ahead of time. You can send it to them after you walk them through it and you get their buy-in. But if you do that, you'll start closing more proposals, you'll start talking to the right prospects, getting some of your time back. So if you liked this episode, you will love the Agency Playbook, where we really dive into this a lot more. And we actually give you access to a proposal template, our contracts, our agency documents we used, and go over a lot more strategies that are really helping your agency set the right systems up. The only difference between where you're at right now and where you want to go in the next couple years, or the agencies that you admire, are the systems that you have in place. And the Agency Playbook walks you through an 8-system framework in order to allow you to grow faster and to be able to have more confidence in making the right decision, because you have the right structure, you have the right systems, you have the right framework. So make sure you go check out theagencyplaybook.com. And if you have any comments, comment below. If you're not yet subscribed, subscribe. Hit that little bell button so you never miss out on a new episode. And until next time, have a swank day.